It's early in the morning over here, dude. It's 8.
Oh, good morning,
Hey, good morning.
Nathan Pyles. This is the Alchemist Nation Podcast. My name is Walter Morello, and I'm here interviewing somebody who's been through it all. Nate, how did you get involved in real estate?
Yeah, same story like most everybody else. Wife and 3 kids at the time, 4 kids now. Broke, and need to make some cash. And so, saw some guys hustling. When I was got out of the Navy a long time ago, I was built a subdivision and so forth. So I knew about that stuff. So yeah, that was it, man. I some course they had was outfit called Nouveau Riche. It's now I think bankrupt. I don't think it's. I know it's bankrupt. Anyways, you pay them $20,000. It's like a network marketing deal. So like, I get you to pay $20,000, and then you become like this real estate investor. But then I get $10,000, and then you get your mom to do it, and then your mom pays $10,000, and then I get $10,000, you get $5,000. One of those deals. Anyways, so we did all that, and didn't really learn a lot from that course except the videos, and so I just started hustling, and that's it, man.
Good.
Good times.
Very good.
Great gig.
So you got in. How much of what you actually used came from that course, and how much did you go and learn on your own?
I'd say, I don't know, 10% maybe. I learned some strategies. Understood like you gotta get a title company, and you gotta you talk to sellers, and short sales actually work, and things like that. Yep. The rest of it just learning on my own. I really never had a mentor. You always hear people, why do you have a mentor? Well, the mentor really is good, I think. I never had one. It's just me and the Holy Ghost, man. Like, trying to figure things out. So, but it's a good gig, man.
Yeah, it's something that I definitely have been blessed to have mentors all the way through. But most people, I think, that get super successful, they either have them or they don't. And it doesn't matter, right? You can get there no matter what. The mentor just speeds things up.
Yeah.
And, makes the path less bumpy, right?
Yeah.
Just like you said, how many kids do you have? You said you had 4.
4 kids. Yep.
How old?
My oldest, Maeve, she's 16, and then 13, 12, and 9. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, phenomenal. And so you got into real estate investing basically to support your kids, right?
Support kids.
What were you doing before that, Nathan?
We were, my wife and I were missionaries in Ireland with we were going to a church called Calvary Chapel at the time. So yeah, we're doing that, and
wow,
got done with that and came to America.
So what was, I say, like your worst experience in real estate? I think you and I talked about it yesterday a little bit, but if you're comfortable going there, I think a lot of people have questions.
Well, I'm glad to share it. Bottom line, I was, and we could talk about this a little bit more, is we talk about some strategy and stuff, but about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I had a major bankruptcy in business, in real estate. And it was basically because I was with some bad guys, just really bad lenders. Okay. And, when you're in real estate and I had a lot going on. I had 4 subdivisions I was developing and building on and so forth. But when you get with the wrong guys, it's really bad. And so what these guys did is they're essentially loan sharks. And, I knew I shouldn't have been with them, and I was trying to get out from underneath them, but dude, man, so much, it was hard. Like, it was like the boa constrictor on my business. And so a couple of things. So what they did is they forced me into involuntary bankruptcy. Did you know you could do that? That's actually good. So if someone's like, hey man, I don't like you, you can actually force somebody to involuntary bankruptcy. Then you have to prove why you don't want to be bankrupt. So they did that and accused me of writing bad checks, which I didn't. Dude, I spent the night in jail. Interesting cultural experience.
I'm sure it was.
A bunch of drug addicts and anyway. Yeah, man. But I didn't write bad checks and was able to prove it, and it's all that stuff. So, but it was all based on these guys that were lenders and they were really mad. So, anyway, recovering from that, I learned a lot. I learned a hell of a lot of stuff on that, and I'm able to use it for good. I'm a Christian guy, as you know, and you know, God's good, and I'm able to, you know, I help other people. And you know, the biggest thing I learned from this is probably two things. Number one, be wise in business, man, because there's a lot of it's cutthroat out there. I mean, you can get family, friends, media, judicial system to turn on you. You know, even if you do something wrong, and even if you do something right, you know, you still it's so you just, you know, you got to be wise there. The second thing is just exposure. Like when you, if you know, if you have all your, you don't have all your entities is just one deal, you know, they could really go after you. So anyway, yeah.
So that's good advice. So basically, when I looked you up online, the media does not paint the story that nicely, and they don't. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I know people who've been in the same position as you, and they're ethical people, done great business, they're still doing business, and the media will paint them in the wrong direction, because it's just good media, right? Like that's what sells.
Yeah,
and that's
what people want, salacious stuff.
Right. Like they wouldn't read it.
Scheme, you know, crap.
Man accused of bouncing checks proved innocent. Not as exciting as man who's stolen millions of dollars from investors. Like that's like, oh shit, like this, you know, people are insane. So going back, you're a developer, right? So that's a whole side of real estate. A lot of people want to get into, are excited about. How did you start into it? Were you always a developer? Or did you start with rehabs? What was your previous experience before jumping into this?
Yeah, great question. So bottom line, and like I said, when I got out of the Navy, I'd done some development for a friend of mine in High Sierras, and on a golf course and everything. So I learned a lot there. And anyways, when I got really into real estate, again, after being in the mission field and so forth, look, as you know this, man, it's about a niche, okay? You got to find a niche in this gig, okay? And that's bottom line, all right? If you can't find a niche, you're just going to fail, all right? So when I started, okay, obviously there's competition where I'm at, and the competition, it was all they wanted properties, single family homes in a, you know, within the zip code or whatever, subdivision or, you know, whatever, and just carpet and paint, blah, blah. Well, the reality is, bloody hell, you're not going to get that. I mean, very, very often. It's difficult, right? So I'm like, dude, man, I've got to have a niche here. I can't, because all these other guys, I was just really new. I had no money. And these guys, man, they knew what they were doing. They could buy stuff, you know, cash, all stuff. So I had to find a niche. And so what I did is I just started doing my own marketing. And I remember one day, I'll never forget it. I had a guy call me from, he was out in the country, just out in the country, like a 2-acre deal out in the country. And at the time I had a realtor that I was working with. So this realtor drives me, you know, way out, like 45 minutes out in the country in his Lincoln. It was a Lincoln, no less. And it's, you know, doing this, and, you know, Lincoln. So we go in there, and it's just a total rundown house, right? I'm like, okay, this is potential. I could fix it up and everything. And the dude wouldn't even get out of his car. He wouldn't. He just sit his ass in the car. This is stupid. I'm going to come out of here. So I go in there, and there's like freaking chickens running around. There's a mattress with cat crap on in the middle of the floor, and you know the
Nathan, what state is this in? What state?
Idaho. It was Idaho.
Idaho. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Idaho. Yeah. So anyway, blah blah blah. But you know, just throw some money at it and it'll get work. Anyway, so it was like 2-acre deal. So I went in there. I got the thing for like, I think it was like $60,000, and we put like 25 into it. Just an old country home, but sold for $150. And I'm like, man, this is a cool thing. And you know, I didn't use that realtor anymore. But I started thinking, man, this farm thing is, you know, that's pretty good. And all my colleagues are like, hey, man, I won't touch that. That's stupid, man. You know, wells and septic tanks are. I'm like, well, I'd like to know more about this. So what I just started doing is targeting old farmhouses that needed a lot of work that no one would touch. They're scared of them. And I got really good at wells. I got really good at septic tanks. I got really good at being creative with power. And then this is how I got in developing. When you get acreages like that, you know, sometimes it'll come with 2 or 3 parcels attached with the house, right? And that's literally free money, right? So sometimes you could subdivide this. And so what I started doing, I had a builder at the time, he could build for about $70 a square foot. That's
wow.
changed now.
Yeah.
what we're doing is, like, I bought a house on Craigslist. You know, there's a yeah, right. There's stuff on Craigslist, right? So this guy on Craigslist, I bought this house, and it was like at a corner lot deal. And it was a little old house that needed rehab, whatever. But then it had like a kind of a long lot yard, and it had like an old shed on this other yard. So I took the other shed off, and I realized I could subdivide that plot. So I flipped the house, and I had a free lot in town that was worth 40 grand.
Yep.
Leveraged that lot to build like a 3-2 on with a garage underneath it, kind of thing. And I made a lot, like 50 grand on that deal.
Nice.
Just a little house on Craigslist. So things like that, I started splitting lots. I bought another one off of on the highway, and it was like a 6-acre old grandma's house, and the house was weird. Like you walk through it, and you go up, and you go down. It's
different levels from different renovations. Yeah,
exactly. Crazy old house. Anyways, but dude, it had 4 parcels on it, and so I was able to, and they were like weird parcels, but Actually, no, this is what it was. It was 3 parcels, and one of those parcels was the original. So I got good at this stuff. I'm always looking. So because it was the original parcel, it was eligible for a split, okay? So people I teach, right? I'm always saying, hey, look at that parcel and we'll ask, like, what's the municipality saying? Can you split it? Because sometimes you can. That's just free money. That's low-hanging fruit, dude. So anyways, I split it to 4 acre-and-a-half parcels, and then I sold them all off, built on them, and then sold it. So, I mean, it was, things like that are so overall, I bought another house in town.
Yep.
And it was like a little over a third of an acre, tons of room for another home. Yep. But, but the thing is, it was in town, but it was actually in the county. You follow me? And so I'm like, dang, man, I want to split this lot. And I asked the county, they're like, it's already been split, blah, 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 I can't do it. So I went to the city council in the town. I said, hey, man, why don't you annex this parcel here? It's a nice thing. And what we'll do is we'll split it, and you guys will get more tax base, and then you'll get a build on a property, make more money. And they're all like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do it. So they all voted on it. Boom. I got an annex in the city, and I got a free lot, dude.
You got really good at finding those free little lots. And I love it because, we've done very similar deals where it's like, okay, what's the extra bonus to buying this piece of property, this lot? What's the extra bonus? What's the extra bonus? We've stuck to multifamilies, and, every so often we'll buy something with a single family on it, and we just burn and turn that single family, right? Like little things where we just subdivide and get rid of it. So we've always avoided development because of the big upfront costs and the long turnaround. What drew you towards development? How did you actually, I know the question everybody's asking, how did you get the money to do your first deal?
I just found a lender that wanted to lend on real estate, I kind of a private guy, and we did. In fact, it was, I think it was, I don't remember what deal it was. One of them was that one I was telling you about, that old farm, that old country house with the chickens and stuff. That was a new lender there. But yeah, I just found guys that wanted to invest, and basically I was looking to borrow. At the bottom line, borrowing.
You're just hunting for the money, looking for the bankers that would do it. And so you came out of the Navy. Where did you serve in the Navy?
It was in actually Pascagoula, Mississippi, and then our ship went through Panama Canal and up to San Diego. So I spent most of my time in Sand Dog.
Nice. And so you came out with Navy skills, but not construction skills, not development skills. Where did you build those skills? Like, how did you get involved? You said, I remember before the interview, you said you didn't have any mentors. What gave you that information to get you to the next level?
Well, like I said, I started doing a subdivision when I got out of the Navy, working for a guy, learning how it all works. I was basically his representative up at, he was in the Bay Area and I was up in the mountains. And so, I was kind of ground zero, how it all worked, to manage everybody, and just learn a lot there. And then, having that information really helped. And of course, once I learned about real estate, how lots work and stuff. I just talked to a lot of people, man. Like talk to guys at the title company. Very, very, very helpful. I tell you, man, one of the things that we have title companies over here. You're in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're closing attorneys. Let me ask you this really quick, if you don't mind. How's it? Your closing attorneys, do they interact with you guys? I mean, do they have someone on staff?
I think so. A lot of my closing attorneys are my very close friends, but I would say normally you get a paralegal who's reaching out to you. So it's not typically the attorney once you've signed on.
So it's a paralegal, okay.
Yeah, so the attorney is almost like a salesperson, and then the paralegal really does all the dirty work.
Okay, so if you have a question about title or easements, the paralegal is the cat you need to talk to. Is that what you're saying?
They'll typically kick you back to the attorney. The attorney knows all the stuff, and the paralegal does all the work.
Okay, so the attorney is going to know all that stuff. Okay, that's just different from. So our title guys have different responsibilities, and so there's always a guy that's where I'm at is a land guy, right? And or a water guy, or whatever, and he knows everything about us. You just call him, and he likes talking, and you just take tons of notes,
Yep.
Like for example, dude, you'll like this one. All right, so I bought this house. It was on. I love this stuff. This is the greatest. So I bought this place and it was on the river. Okay. And it was a weird looking old house. We were rehabbing. There was a freaking coffin box in the ceiling. So the ceiling was going like this. We tore the ceiling up to, shore it up, and this coffin box fell off. Anyway, from like the 60s or something.
Yeah.
It was holding through it. So anyway, so we're fixing this whole thing up. But it was on the river, and it was only like an acre. Right on the river, and there was the way the house was here, and the river was here, but the way the plat was set up, there was all this area that was between the river and the house that was no man's land kind of thing. So I called title, and there's a difference between the meandering line and the meandering line and the high water mark, and it changes. Okay. Over time, they surveyed this back after the Civil War, so 1860. So the river changed, obviously, in 150 years, a lot. So what they did is they said, look, if you could prove that that's changed with a surveyor, and just bring down one of the water guys, the state water guys, go down here and we'll, you could annex into your property, and we'll collect more property taxes. So I go down there with a surveyor down the river and all this and that, and he surveys it, and sure enough, I got an extra acre, dude. One free acre. So instead of a 1 acre on the river, 2 acres on the river.
No,
like double the price of the property. Yeah, just by that, because I was looking at the plat, right?
Yeah.
And I called, like she asked, how do I know this stuff? Called title guys. Hey, how's this work? How does this water thing work? And there's a guy who's really good at it, and that's just his thing, his niche. Yeah. So, man, yeah, it was great. Free waterfront property.
That's amazing.
It cost me a couple $100 for the surveyor, but I mean, behave yourself.
Right. Like, don't be a pig, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, this is all in Idaho. What got you to Idaho? Is that where you were from originally, or
no? My parents. I grew up in Corvallis, Oregon, and it was Western Oregon, and I was the Navy. Anyways, moved around and stuff. Moved to Europe and everything. But when I moved back from Ireland, my parents actually were living in Idaho, so we just moved back living with them. I'm like, man, I got to make something happen here. My wife was pregnant. We had a daughter who was born in Ireland and everything. So yeah, it was, So yeah, that's how I did. Just the thing is, there's no plan B for me, right?
Right.
If there was a plan B or C or D, maybe I don't. But I didn't graduate from high school, and I didn't graduate from college. Not really proud of that, but that's just the choices I made, and so this has to. I gotta make things work. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good motivation, I think.
So Nate, a lot of us didn't either. A lot of the other successful guys, didn't graduate from college, didn't go to like a prep school or anything like that. Like, we just got into it. We got very good at doing the deals and have turned them around. So you're at a point now, and this is interesting, right? Because we've been talking about this for a while now, that the market is booming and doing great, but lending is tighter, and the deals are harder to find. They're just a little bit more work you got to put into marketing and finding these deals. And so investors are making riskier moves. They got to keep the machine running. And so they're sticking to what they know, but what they know may be changing to something more dangerous. What what happened? So at what point did you realize, because the only way you get in trouble in real estate is over leverage, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's really the only way to get in trouble.
Yeah.
What day did you realize you're over leveraged? Like, what, you just woke up one day and said, fuck, like this is a situation? Or was it something you saw coming and then a couple things just fell apart? Because you're not the type of guy not to have contingency plans. Like, I know you said there's no plan B, but in real estate, everybody has,
Sure.
some other backup plan, a way to get through something. What ended up, what was the first light for you?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Okay. So here's the thing, private money is cool and all, but here's the challenge of private money. Okay. And this is a dirty little secret. And it's something I think anyone watching this needs to understand. The problem with private money is it's private money. You just don't know how much these guys have willing to lend, right? And it's not a consistent. When you go with a bank platform or something like that, like quasi bank kind of deal, there's they have billions and billions of dollars, whatever, and you can essentially a line of credit, whatever you want to call it, for committed to your projects. Okay, when you go for private money and you say, hey, can I borrow some cash? There's a lot of you just don't know how much of a commitment that person wants to put into what you're doing, and also how many funds they have, right? So it's really, really hard to do long term with just random private money. It just really is. Okay, so to illustrate the point, I was building a bunch of houses, and I had a lender that I was lending money on, and I was okay. I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 houses with this guy. It was a group out of it was a company, a lender. It wasn't a bank, but you know what I mean. It's one of those big lending platforms. And so I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm going, really good. So their rep comes out and he calls me and says, hey man, let's go to coffee, And I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'll tell him about some more projects I got coming up. And he's him-hawing around, and he's like, well, you're one of the biggest players we have right now, and you only have like, and I had like $2 million out with the guy, and he's like, yeah, it's well, you're like most people only have a little bit. I'm like, well, you kept telling me like you have all this unlimited funds, you have billions of dollars and all this stuff.
That's what they all say. Yep.
Yeah. So you're putting a speed limit on me. Well, him. So then I'm like, well, this is frustrating. So then I was like, really, like, man, this is frustrating. Like I can't, really hard for me to plan, big goals, because I had like a couple subdivisions I was just starting, and then he's telling me this, right? So anyway, and then some other private guys, hey, I want to be your money guys. And they're trying to compete or whatever, and oh yeah, take me out to lunch. Hey, we got the money for you, and I'm like, hey, I really need to know that we have these funds, kind of thing, right? Oh yeah, we got everything. We don't want these other guys, just keep it in house. And so did that, and then we're rolling. I had a huge debt service. I think I was running on my American Express.
Yeah.
And $300,000 or whatever, just to pay the contractors and stuff. And what happened was I went to the lenders. I'm like, hey, I got this bill. I got it. And they didn't have the cash.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, I knew. I'm like, man, this is not good. So the money, I reached out and I got some cash from some guys that I shouldn't ever got the money from.
What was the interest rate? What were the terms?
Which one? For what?
I guess all of it. So you were doing a lot of deals. You're doing big developments. These are things you don't.
Yeah, like 12. Yeah, 12. Well, 12%, something like that. 12%.
Yeah, and that seemed pretty consistent across everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, but so that's so that's the thing. You just get it. You got to find. I would just say borrow money. You'll be wise in who you borrow money from, and anticipate. If they don't have a lot of cash, just anticipate you're going to have to probably look other places.
And so when you say be careful with who you borrow money from, what advice would you have on how to identify a good lender?
Well, you want to make sure they're certified. Again, I'm not an attorney on this, but yeah, you want to make sure that. What I would just say, unless these people, friends, family, just go to either go to a group that's a proven group that's got money for development. It depends on what you're borrowing money for. It really depends. But I would just go for a big group, and you're not have to put a lot of skin in the game to do it. But I would, man, because it's just better because you just see what the parameters are, how much funds they have, how long the commitment that they could help you with, that kind of thing. Because that's really going to keep you going long term, right?
Right.
If they can give you a credit limit of $2 million, that's great. Okay, well, say you need more than $2 million. Well, then you have this company will do, and then But if you just try out and borrow willy nilly, it's really hard because this guy he's got all he's got is 150 grand. That's it. He's not going to have 200,000 or 180. This is all he's got, right? So you got to handle him and try and mix it with other stuff. And it's
and that's one of the things we learned with raising private capital was always ask how much they have, and not how much how much do you have, what are you willing to lend, and make sure this money is stuff you're not going to need this for 2 years, right? Like we will not take more than 60% of somebody's wealth because it just doesn't make sense. If something happens, they end up in trouble. Well, then they want their money back, and it's like, fuck, now I got to go move money around, and I'd rather just run the project, give you your money back on the time we agreed, instead of being forced to pull it out. Yeah. So that's really good advice. We've run into that too, raising capital. So do you still raise private capital? Do you still use that in your deals, or have you gotten to the point where it's like, just running my own equity and doing the deals that way?
Yeah, I just work. I have some partners that we use their funds, and that's how it works. So right now, at least, just because of all this, what happened and everything. But it's just so much more cleaner that way, using the funds.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And we do. Me and my business partner, we like to stick to a lot of our own stuff when it comes to holds. And then when it comes to the flips, we use private capital on the flips just because it's, turn and burn money, short deadlines, there's less risk involved. So I see where you're coming with this. Now, development, how fast are you turning these buildings around, right? So for me, my biggest concern with development is I buy it and I'm not seeing return on investment for a year, 2 years. Is that a realistic time frame, scope?
The thing froze the same. What did you say now? What about time frame?
So time frame, my concern is I'm not seeing the return on investment for a year or 2 years. So, you do all the upfront work and then you don't see any money for a long time. What is the scope? How soon are you typically being able to get a little bit of your money back or closing deals?
Well, great question. So it really depends on the stage of the development. Okay. So, if you're just going to take raw land and then do all the horizontal stuff, that could take, there's a lot to it. That could take you 18 months, and then, building up the vertical stuff that's, that can be pretty quick once the infrastructure's in. The one I've done that just started from man. One time I was at the pub with one of my friends, and, we're having an IPA or whatever. And he's like, "Hey man, you see this nice riverfront property?" I'm like, "Oh man, 10 acres, that's really cool, it's right on the river, that's a really cool deal." And it's really cheap, $100,000 or whatever. It's like, you can develop it. I was like, I'll build a couple homes on there. So I go home after the pub and I buy it, right? Put an offer and buy the thing. So everything's cool. I'm getting my building things, how I'm going to build and stuff. Right on the river, really nice, really nice, I get a call from the county. The county's like, "Dude, you can't build on this property. It's not subdivided." I'm like, "What are you talking about? The listing said it is." "No, it's not." So and it turns out it was on a wetland.
Oh no!
Have you ever done that before? This is crazy, dude.
I'm on the conservation board, so I'm familiar with it.
All right. So this was a wetland. So I had to get an engineer out there, a wetland engineer guy, and then we had to get an archaeologist. Hired an archaeologist, make sure there's no Indian things, and it wasn't. So that was good. And then we had to get a dispensation from the what do we call it? Army Corps of Engineers. And this is what they did. They basically, this is pretty clever. To build on a wetland, what we were able to do is there was a water bank. Do you guys have water banks? You heard of that term before?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, we paid them $30,000 in cash, And what they're going to do with that 30 grand, I guess, is they're going to take a non-wetland somewhere else and turn it into wetland. And I was going to take their wetland and turn it up and make a driveway through it.
Duplicate the wetlands, but not where you are. Typically, we'll have the developer duplicate the wetlands just somewhere on another piece of their land. But what you're asking them, what they've asked you to do is just give us the money and we'll duplicate it somewhere else.
Yeah, just give us 30 grand. So I'm like, okay, cool. Here's $30,000. And then, and then went through the whole process, and they were really kind there, and they wanted to see it be developed. And some gal was griping about she had some beavers or something and was afraid that I was in it. But I'm like, look, I'm downriver from you there, lady. So, and then then that was overcome. But anyway, we cut it in half, and that was a huge ordeal. But that took time. Fortunately, they had an airstrip. I'm a pilot thing, right? So they had an airstrip right next to the courthouse. And so on time and manner, I could get, instead of a 45-minute drive, I could get there in like 10 minutes. So I just would fly, get all the stuff and the plat, the final plat and everything, get there in time and manner. So I remember one time we had to get there, and I had like an hour to get there or something, like 45 minutes to get there before the deadline. And I was able to, flew over there and got a handle. So that was handy. Dude. So where are we going with all this? So that took time. That was from like, starting from scratch. Yep. A lot of the stuff that I did, I like to find stuff, the infrastructure was already put in. Okay. And there's a lot of guys that in the last recession, 2008, 2009, they had these properties that they had developed, and they were really over leveraged back then. And so then they either the bank repoed it, or some guys bought from the bank after the repo and held on to it, or some guys just held on. So I would go in there and get those things. They're all set up, just nothing was, wasn't quite complete. So
right.
Yeah.
So you want to get something a little before it's been handled. And we've done that before too, where we go and we get a site checked and we get the engineering done. But like I said, we're not developers. So we get the land where we know it could get approved to build, and then we'll go and sell the raw land with that, developable land.
Well, that's a great way to go. Just sell the land and then have a builder buy it,
Yeah.
So I would do both. I would do, the building. I love the new builds, but also, develop the land as well. So.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you have that strategy and you're capable of doing that side. For us, we've always, whenever it came to land itself, we're like, you know what, we know how to site it, go get the site taken care of, site engineering, and then let's fire this thing off. Let's sell it cheap, get a developer to come in there and do what they're good at.
Yeah.
And for you,
right, exactly. Do what they're good at and take the money and run. Yeah, that's good.
So phenomenal. Nate, we've learned a lot. At your peak, how many deals were you doing? How much money, what was the biggest, I guess, asset you were carrying? The amount of assets, right? So was it $5 million worth of land, real estate development? Was it 10? Like, what was the maximum you were holding at one given time? Most projects you were running?
Yeah, I don't know, 15 million, something like that, probably.
15 million. Yeah. How do you keep it all together? How do you stay organized through the whole process?
Yeah, well, you have to get a good, accountant, and one thing I did learn is make sure your accountant and your bookkeeper work together, because mine always were doing this, and so I had to get an accountant, a bookkeeper that worked right with the accountant. So that that's really important. Yep. To do. But man, land it's a lot. Really, a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun doing land, and there's just so much opportunity, in that.
Yeah, Nate, I've learned a lot from you just in this. I know our audience has learned quite a bit. So I got one question I usually ask everybody at the end. Before you ask that, what is the easiest way for somebody to contact if they want to learn to develop? Do you have a training program, something that you sell where you can teach people? So what are you doing right now? What is the project you're working on right now?
Yeah. So as far as mentoring people, I have a YouTube site and a Facebook thing. I'm more of a just hands-on in the working out in the field kind of guy. But you want to call me, my number, I'll give you my number. It's 208-576-4311. It's 208-576-4311. And my YouTube is Arboroth Real Estate. And Arboroth is you like Braveheart? You ever watch that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Arboroth, it's Declaration of Arboroth is where Scotland's declares their independence from England time.
I love it.
1320, Robert the Bruce and stuff. So anyway, that's why
Very cool.
live in Scotland and everything. So so that's it. So Arboroth Real Estate, and that's for my Facebook deal and also the YouTube. And I got a bunch. I always make YouTube videos because here, look, man. Here's the thing: when you're starting out, there's a lot to learn, right? And it can be really confusing. So I like to just make really like step by step. Hey, this is what I've learned. This is how you can do it. It's not difficult, but you have to have the right information.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. No, Nathan, and I know a lot of our students have followed you and they learn a lot from those YouTube videos. The big question I got to ask is, if you were to go back to your 20-year-old self, 3 pieces of advice you would give yourself, going back to your 20-year-old Nathan Pyles saying, hey, these are the 3 pieces you need to be super successful, to save yourself all the heartache and just get right to the top fastest. What would you go back and tell yourself?
Yeah, great question. So first I'd say be wise with who you do business with. Okay. And because once you become successful, you're going to have people that are just going to try and take advantage or some in an evil way, some of that. And also just, they want, something for nothing kind of thing. So be wise in that. And then probably the second is study, find out what your niche is. Okay. Niche is important, and then get really good at it. Okay. And probably the third thing is just hustle, man. You gotta hustle. This is all about hustle. You know that. Yep. That's what you're doing now. You're hustling. And when you hustle, man, like things happen. You have to hustle though.
And what would you define as hustle? Is it the action, or is it the I've got to go do this, and then the action just kind of takes place because you're so focused on what you want?
I like that. That's a great question. Well, yeah, I think that's what it is. I think you gotta know what you're doing. You gotta think through it, and you gotta act on it.
Yeah.
And you gotta listen. You gotta listen to advice. People people have told me information just in passing that's changed my life. Cause I'm like, I could do that. I made all the stuff. So yeah, situational awareness.
Nice.
You ever use that term?
I have not. I love that situational awareness.
I'm a pilot, man. Like flying's awesome. When I do my mentorship, I talk to these guys, and I'm like, hey, man, as a pilot, flying's freaking awesome. I mean, there's no stoplights, no cops, you just fly and do whatever, over mountains, everything. It's really cool, fast. But like poor Kobe Bryant back in January, man, that guy, dude, out in the fog, and he freaking crashed the aircraft into the terrain, right? And they're all dead, right? So if you lose situational awareness, you're gonna die, right? And weather or terrain, right? Yep. Real estate's the same way, man. If you go into this, like engage and immerse yourself in real estate. It's not just saying I ain't buying a house, no money, no credit, no job. It's great. No, dude, that's absurd. This is a business. Go into this with both eyes open. Situational awareness. Get good at your niche, right? And then you'll learn stuff. Take notes, right? Take notes. Listen. Ask questions, right? And then, you can be successful, but you got to do that. You have to really, really, really engage in this gig. Otherwise, it'll eat you alive. And I know that firsthand.
Awesome. Nathan Pyles, thank you so much, my friend. I've built a new friend. We've got a new relationship. I don't know if I told you, but I'm on a mission to build 100 millionaires, and those 100 millionaires will go out and build 100 millionaires themselves and keep this mission turning. You are an alchemist. You've got the mindset of turning people into gold. So thank you so much, Nathan, for your time. I hope you have another a productive day, productive month, and keep it rolling into more and more productive years. Let's stay in touch, and we'll follow up in probably 6 months to a year. Cheers.
Yeah, man. Do it, dude. Good.
Thank you, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day, Nathan.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon. Cheers.